Hi, my name is Chad Hawk, and I'm a participant in the 9th grade humanities program at Norristown Area High School. The people at Norristown Area High School in the 9th grade humanities program have been working on one-on-one debates and traditional debates. Here's an example of them.
Hello, my name is Fred Weaver, and today I will be debating on women in the military. I believe that women should be used in the military for all sorts of jobs. Right now they are in the military, but only on clerical and jobs such as this. I believe they should be drafted and be used in frontline combat. I will prove this to you through three basic things. First, what the people think. The National Organization for Women stated, if the draft were resumed, men and women should be drafted, and if men fight, women should fight. General Westmoreland said, if we're going to have a draft, it has to be across the board. I can't pull back and say that women should not be drafted while supporting the Equal Rights Amendment. And I shouldn't say that the Equal Rights Amendment shouldn't include the draft. And if women are drafted, she should not be barred from the front lines. A poll taken across the country showed that 82% of the people showed that they would favor women registering for the draft. And another poll showed that 2 out of 3 people said women should serve in combat. Second is historically. Women are playing a progressively more important role in the armed forces. Women have always helped to serve their nation in time of need. In the Civil War, women regularly went out to the battlefields and tended wounded soldiers. During World War II, 216,000 women served in the Auxiliary Corps for all various military branches. And in 1980, there were 150,000 women on active duty in the military services. You're probably wondering, why was there a draft? I don't know. We're supposed to be liberated now and coming into a time of equal rights. But as we become more liberated and have equal rights, why in the military does that always decrease? Third is the beneficiality. Women now serving in the military are generally better educated and score higher on entrance aptitude tests than do their male counterparts. Another plus involving women in the military service is that they cause fewer discipline problems. They don't drink or use drugs and do not commit as many offenses such as being absent without leave. Women have proven that they can serve successfully in all armed forces. And I believe that we should rely on recruiting women because the manpower pool of young men has been decreasing and will continue to decrease for the next decade. Our country cannot afford to ignore the skills and resources women can bring to the military. Thank you.
I'm the negative of this debate, and I'm defending the status quo of whether women should be treated like men involving armed force issues. I suggest that women not be involved in draft and not be put in combat positions unless they wish to. Women shouldn't be forced to do the same as men for 2 reasons. The 2 reasons for us to keep the status quo are the nature and the nurture of men and women. The first reason is nature. Researchers say men are naturally more dominant than women. Males have more muscle tissue, which therefore makes them stronger. Naturally, women are more passive, therefore making them weaker fighters. Also, if a man was placed in a mixed army, he would be slowed down by the women. Proof of this is established by taking simple facts from a 1983 almanac. In the U.S. 1-mile run of July 1982, men, 3 minutes, 47 seconds. Women, 4 minutes, 18 seconds. In the long jump, men, 8.9 meters, women, 7 meters. In the 1982 U.S. Outdoor Champs, high jump, men, 7, 5 3/4 inches, women, 6 and 4 3/4 inches. That proves that men have a greater ability to run and jump, and they are quicker. Put it this way: if we had a war where every split second counted, wouldn't we want the quicker to be there? And more importantly, would you want a mixed army fighting an army of all men? Males are physiologically and anatomically different from women, but it's the values placed on these differences and the reactions that really influence one's personalities and behaviors. This leads to the reason of nurture. In other words, nurture is how you are influenced by your environment. Cultural influences affect infants from birth. The girl swathed in pink, the boy in blue. Parents tend to play more gentle with girls than boys and also tend to reinforce more aggressive behaviors in boys while negatively reinforcing the same behaviors in girls. Therefore, since fighting is an aggressive thing to do, it's the males who should do it better. In summarizing what I've said, I will use the studies done by Joseph Gary and Amram Scheinfeld, researchers of sex differences and mental and behavioral traits. They developed a comprehensive list of what sex differences are from what they have researched. Selections from this list are as follows. 1. Males have more strength and are generally physically bigger than females. They also state that males are more aggressive than females. Females are more developed at birth, mature at a faster rate than males, reach puberty and mature mentally at an earlier age. Because males mature over a longer period of time than females, they are in a better position to develop their physical and athletic prowess. Now I asked you, when males can pursue their athletic abilities to the maximum, why would you want the minimum? As seen in early infancy, females are people-oriented, while males are more curious about objects and how to handle them. Females need to relate successfully to people, while males strive to successfully complete goals. Now I question you, if a war was the goal to accomplish, who would strive harder to do it? 1, the male who's looking for accomplishment of a goal, or the woman who is looking to satisfy people. Females are motivated from without, as males are motivated from within. Women are better at linguistics, memorization, and clerical skills, while males handle spatial problems as mathematical problems. Also, it states males are more adept at reasoning. We do want reasonable people out there on the battlefield, don't we? For men, masculinity and gratification in life focuses on occupational achievement and success, while the female needs to be very close to someone she loves, namely her husband. And it is through this intimacy that she achieves her feminine identity. A woman was placed in a situation, if women were placed in a situation where they couldn't achieve their identities, that wouldn't accomplish anything. As in the male's case, the armed forces could be their occupational achievement, which makes him masculine. Those were just a few of the examples of sex difference, but there are many more. In refuting what Fred has said, he says that women are always put in clerical jobs. Well, that's because they're better at it. They shouldn't be used on the front line because of points that I've said. And he said that the equal rights shouldn't include the draft. Well, should include the draft. Well, I don't think they should, because if you're calling them equal rights, that really wouldn't make it equal. As Mr. Weaver mentioned, education. Education, he's saying that women have better and better education. I feel that education has nothing to do with being out there on the front line and fighting, no matter how much education you have. And he said that women don't drink and use drugs as much as men. Well, I don't think that's really true, because I know women, well, I don't know about women, but I think women do it just as much as men do. I don't think they do it anymore. And again, if an army was mixed of women and men, I don't think you'd want it fighting against another country who had an all-men army.
As Ms. Scott has just stated, men are stronger than women, and this is true. But women are of smaller stature, and on a battlefield, in the front lines, what would you want out there, a smaller person or a larger person? You would probably say the larger person, but this wouldn't be true. What would be harder to shoot, a small target or a large target? She also said that women mature faster. That means they can be recruited at a younger age than men. I'm not saying that they should be recruited at a younger age, but if the time came that they should be and we needed the extra force, they would be there. And she also said that they are only put in clerical jobs now because they're better at it. This is true, but I wanted to change this. I feel that if they were put in the front lines, they could do just as well a job as the men do. And I stated that they are smarter. But fighting is not just taking out your guns and shooting people. You have to have planning. And what's better, a stupid person or a smarter person for planning an army? And as I have stated before, we cannot deny the women's rights in the fighting and in the military. And as far as drugs and drinking go, I said in the military they do not do this as much. That is because they have to strive harder at what they are trying to accomplish. And if you are trying to strive harder at what you're trying to accomplish, that means you will work better. And in closing, I would like to say something that I have stated before. Our country cannot afford to ignore the skills and resources women can bring into the military. And that is why I feel women should be in all jobs in the military.
Okay, thank you.
This is a traditional debate. It is debated between Paul and Tracy and Helen and Brian. And they are debating whether prisoners are treated justly or not.
I propose that the conditions and surroundings of prisons should be improved greatly because some of them are unfit for human habitation. There are basically three things with prisons that make them uninhabitable. There's prison corruption, there's prison conditions, and there's prisoners should learn reforms while they're in there. First of all, prison corruption. Some of the guards are involved with extracurricular activities that are illegal. Some of them sell drugs to the prisoners and sell drugs among themselves. If a prisoner is in there because of a drug bust, he doesn't want to see it happening around him every day. Some of the guards' friends get arrested and they aid them to escape. I think that's wrong. Some of the guards are keeping the prisoners supplies for themselves. The prisoners get a little bit enough supplies as it is without the guards taking it away from them. The guards beat and sometimes kill the prisoners for minor things, anything, just because they don't like them, they don't like what they say, they don't like how they look, and sometimes it's for racial reasons. 97% of prison administrators are white, and 95% of the guards are white. 14% more whites than blacks are paroled each year. Out of the population of the United States, 40% of the people are white, or 11% of the people are black, but 40% of the prisoners in prisons are black. Prison conditions should be improved too. They should be cleaned up. I have a quote here from William Rechtenwald from the Sir's Digest. It says, "The cell block was filled with trash, excrement, and spoiled food, all of it soaked with water that collected in puddles." This is just one example, but I'm sure there are other prisons in the United States that are in worse condition than this. If they wanted to, the prisoners could get together, if they were allowed out, like maybe once or twice a week, and clean the prisons up. The overcrowded problem should be stopped in prisons. There are much too many people in every cell, and too many people in one cell encourage homosexual acts, which is very prominent in prisons. There's not enough supplies to go around between the guards stealing it and there not being enough. Half of the prisoners get it, and most of the prisons don't even see anything. The prisoners should learn skills after they get out of prison because it'll help them. When they get out, how are they going to get a job painting license plates or playing basketball or something? There's no way that they could do that. And while they're in there, instead of just sitting around all day and not doing nothing, it'll keep them occupied. The people are in prison for committing crimes. They're there to pay their debt to society, not to be raped, beaten, deprived of necessities, or kept in uninhabitable conditions. They don't want to be mistreated because of their race or color. You can't realize how bad things are until you're in there.
We propose that the present prison system provides programs for the prisoners to rehabilitate and become law-abiding citizens. In 1937, a behavioral clinic was added to the Quarter Sessions Court of Allegheny County in Pittsburgh. This behavioral clinic was established to examine criminals in a psychological, psychiatric, physical, and social needs. The mentally ill were then given appropriate care, whereas others were given recommendations. Some prisons provide a psychiatrist who examines prisoners and makes recommendations for them. There are numerous extensive programs to help the prisoners to gain vital job skills to enable them to return to society and get a job. A co-ed prison at Fort Worth has educational facilities that offer individualized programs enabling inmates to work at their own pace from adult basic education through high school equivalency courses. In the state Votech school in Sandstone, Minnesota, 97% of the state inmates re-enter society with a job. That is better than records of vocational school students who are convicted criminals. My opponents state that prisons don't reform. In a quote from the principal of the school director of Sandstone, Minnesota Vocational School for prisoners, I quote, "In this type of program where you live and associate with people, you begin to think as a person and not as an inmate. Without much restriction, these people learn how to be happy and more eager to be in society again. Prisons tend to have a harsh and depressing, which tends to make anyone uneasy and losing their will. This program seems to offer a new way for the prisoners to make a new life. In the past, emphasis has been on punishing criminals instead of rehabilitating them. But now it seems to be turned around and people are starting to look at prisoners as human beings and starting to think about rehabilitation programs.
Let me restate the needs of prison improvements. We must stop prison corruption, improve prison conditions, and reform prisoners. Two examples of prison corruption are sexual violence and corruption by guards. Sexual assaults in Philadelphia prison systems are an epidemic. In this system, over a 26-month period, approximately 2,000 sexual assaults were committed by 3,500 aggressors against 1,500 prisoners. Almost every young man is approached within 1 or 2 days after his admission. Many of these young men are repeatedly raped by gangs of inmates. Others, because of the threat of gang rape, seek protection by entering a homosexual relationship. Guards have pugnaciously and systematically conditioned you to believe that you are a foul, scum, demented savage who is unfit to be among other people. Prison conditions should be improved also. In some prisons, cell blocks are filled with trash and spoiled food. Sometimes inmates are locked up 24 hours a day in a 9 by 5 foot cell, sometimes 2 to a cell. Medics also admit that they don't treat inmates as well as they should. Prisons are known as hell. They are also called nauseous pits of degeneration. Beatings, deaths, and suicides are frequent. The prison reform system should be improved, knowing that much crime is caused by the inhumanity of our prisons and by our failure to rehabilitate those that we send to them. Also, knowing that 80% of all crimes are committed by repeaters, and 4/5 of major crimes are committed by people already known to the criminal justice system. Reforming prisoners is the best chance we have to significantly and permanently reduce crime in America. The problem with this is that industrial operations used for training systems are likely to be very old, and many jobs held in prisons are not held on the streets. Also, there is an average of 1 psychiatrist to every 4,000 prisoners. How can a prisoner get the help they need? There was a quote from a man on parole from prison that states, "While they're getting you ready for a lifetime of jailing, they forget to tell you about out here." If you hadn't handled money the whole time you were in prison, would you be able to plan a budget for yourself? If you had been told when to go to bed and when to get up, will you now be able to get up on time to go to work? Will you be able to make decisions for yourself when the whole time you're in prison, your keepers have been making all your decisions for you? These may seem like silly questions, but many ex-convicts have trouble with simple things like this when they get out of prison because they aren't taught. If you had committed a crime, how would you like to be treated like this? Poor conditions, corruption, and little reform. 95% of all expenditures for prisons are for custody, iron bars, stone walls, and guards. 5% is for hope, health services, education, and developing employment skills. Sure, you're in there to be punished, but not to be treated like an animal and degraded. Prisons are for punishment, but also to help these criminals reform themselves.
If some of the 95% of expenditures of prisons that are now used for custody are used to improve conditions, help control corruption, and improve reform methods, we will make prisons better places and improve the people that come out.
I would just like to refute what they have said. As to conditions, it is the prisoner's job to keep their own cells clean. If they find garbage laying around and trash and everything, it's their own fault because they're the ones that leave it there. They're the only people that live in the cells. And as to reform, there are so many job scope programs that prisoners can be engaged in to help them gain skills that they could use when they get out of prison. Libraries are provided for inmates to learn and enjoy themselves, and there is a tutor in the libraries of most prisons to help them plan out a career when they get out of prison. And I also ask, they have not stated a plan to improve the prison system. They've just said what was wrong with it. They're supposed to give examples of how they can improve it. They haven't done that. I'd also like to give some further examples of what prisoners can do when they're in prison. The job scope program that my partner stated immerses prisoners from Stillwater Prison in Minnesota and the Minnesota State Reformatory in a 24-hour day-long group center program through which they learn social and academic skills, as well as a trade. Rehabilitation there is a whole person approach, so they are prepared for when they get out of prison. In an effort to prepare inmates for their release, education tutors work in the library to help inmates map out career strategies. Also, through court action, inmates during recent years have gained much broader freedoms in terms of religious practices, access to courts and counsel, correspondence, and visitations. They've also won protection against cruel and unusual punishment and recognition of their rights to orderly procedures for redress of grievances. More than 1,200 of such cases have been won since 1960. The Federal Correctional Institution at Fort Worth, Texas, is a minimum security prison for men and women. Education facilities offer individualized programs enabling inmates to work at their own pace, from adult basic education through high school preparatory courses. There's an active study release program with Tarrant County Junior College, Texas Christian University, and the University of Texas at Arlington. Vocational training is offered in television production and 7 other fields. Federal Prison Industries operates an automatic data processing center and graphics shop, employing up to 65 inmates at a time. Federal and state courts alike are calling attention to unsatisfactory conditions in prisons and jails and are mandating that improvements are being made. And in no area has the expansion been as dramatic as in the area of rights for prisoners. In the Wolf versus McDonald case in 1974, the Supreme Court guaranteed prisoners due process in prison discipline hearings. Prisoners are gaining numerous freedoms in prisons. For example, in Fort Worth Prison, prisoners are allowed to associate with opposite sex, wear any clothes they like, and groom themselves at which they like. Inmates are also offered various exercise programs. Recreational activities include volleyball, baseball, basketball, and weight training programs.
Okay, let's
Each participant will now have a time to rebut.
At the co-ed prison at Fort Worth, this is a picture of the cafeteria. These people are able to eat with their friends and be able to talk and be happy. In Sandstone, Minnesota, at the Willow River camp, people there are able to receive job skills. There's some pictures of people working. And they are able to visit with their families and friends. This makes them more willing and more happy to enter society and more willing to rehabilitate and make up for their crimes and start a new life than they would be in a prison. there to give guidance and education and training. The present system should stay as it is because it would not be beneficial to change because it is gradually but definitely coming up with an improvement in the present system. Any change would upset the improvement.
To restate what I said in the beginning, the corruption in prison is not fair to the prisoners. They watch the guards do the same things that they were arrested for and put in there for, and the guards are not caught. It's not fair to the prisoner's family or friends if they're killed for no reason because they're black. To improve the conditions in prisons, the prisoners, as I said before, could get together and clean it up. Set aside days. They should not be so closely confined with so many other people. That encourages the spread of disease, AIDS, any kind of disease that's going around now. It spreads a lot quicker in prisons. When prisoners get out of prison, they should know more about jobs, job skills, any kind of thing than they get now. Mr. Shuchuk gave examples of rehabilitation programs, but he only said in one prison. He gave us a specific prison in one state. Now, if that prison in one state, if every prison in the United States could be like that, that would be a lot better. People talk about improvements, but nobody seems to be doing anything. They ought to put more money into the budget for prisons than they do with anything else. Well, not anything else, I mean more than they do, because it degrades the prisoners, and they're dying for no reason. Oh yeah, the visits from the families are really uncommon because most of the prisoners have been in there so long that their families get grown, or else they're repeat offenders, and they were never married and they were in there young. Some prisoners have been in there since they were 12 years old, and they just stay in them all their lives. Should we leave it up to the prisoners to...
I think